Hey, I want to talk to you just a little bit more about strategic therapies and kind of an inclusion, strategic interactional therapies, um, and kind of give you an idea of what all that's about. Um, Strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to concentrate more on the strengths because I don't want to spend time on the weaknesses. Most therapies, as you well know, are basically derived to address particular situations, and that's just kind of basic. But let's talk about this for a minute as to what its goals are, and kind of like the nuts and bolts of it, really. So the strength of this is that it shifts the focus from a patient slash client's weaknesses to their strengths, and the therapist is there to help a client identify and recognize how to use those strengths to make changes that the client sees as beneficial. Now, obviously, a third party, well, the therapist is going to view it that way, but you need to awaken the client to that fact. And there are three theoretical assumptions. You've probably heard this before in the other lectures. Um, the strategic interactional therapies are based on three primary theoretical assumptions. A constructivist's view of reality. Reality is determined by the patient's perceptions. And what are perceptions the result of? Culture, socio-political, and psychological factors. So this person is molded into who they are by those things. Second thing is they stress this stretch, goodness, these stress the importance of attribution of meaning. What does that mean? It means that what situations um, do we attribute to the problem itself? Um, you want to understand how a person attributes events to their problem. I hope that makes sense. Their frame of reference. Um, and then you delve into that and you put together a constructive method of change. Maybe you help them construct a different meaning of a situation, something that's more useful to them in a given situation. It's almost like accenting the positive in a sense. And then finally, human interactions and the problems that come from that, uh, they have maybe established ineffective ways of coping with situations, which probably is another given. So we have to introduce a change in the way that they cope with things that are causing them these problems. And then the therapist's job there is to support the person with that change. Um, Problems exist in a relationship, relationships with others, relationships with situation, and the therapist's goal and role is to change one or more parts of that system and turn them into positives. I'm not telling you that you can take drug abuse and say, well, it's good for this. You have to be realistic. But you don't view it as a structural thing. You view it as a particular part of a system malfunction. And that gives you something to work from. Uh, you have to account for the fact that clients are not always going to give you accurate information about the real nature of their problems. So you are going to have to work through that and get to a point where they're actually telling you what's really going on. How are they really feeling? Um, And finally, to get the ball rolling, so to speak, usually the first question that a therapist would ask, and this is not only in this kind of therapy, it's often in many therapies, why are you here? We want to know what's going on with you. I want to define the client's problem in the client's terms, and then I want to dig into how that client understands the problem. That's the framework of it. This is an Ericksonian approach, by the way, Ericksonian therapy. It's meant to make the process move faster. If you're using solution-focused therapy, that type theory spends most of the first sessions defining goals, and they don't use the term problem. Not the case with this other. And then there are other methods you might want to, a therapist might want to use, the MRI model or the Haley's problem-solving therapy model, or any such thing. Establishment of what's going on. That's all we're doing here. The why, the what, the where. Not so much the where, but the why, the what, and then later maybe the where. And then later sessions, like everything else, set a termination point. Here's where we want to be when I'm going to turn you loose, and I'm not going to become a silent partner, but I'm not going to take such a proactive role. So that's just a little bit about how this interactionist thing works. You're involved in the workings of their mind. You're involved in the workings of their perceptions. You want to know where they came from, how they got flawed, etc., and then how we're going to fix this. Pretty simple, straightforward, straight to the point. Uh, just an added little piece of information for this unit. Alrighty, see you soon.